The talk of the day today in mixed martial arts is Demetrious Johnson. It's not so much right now Max Holloway or UFC 212. It's not so much Vitor Belfort or Claudio Gadelha. It's Demetrious Johnson, arguably the greatest fighter in the world today, arguably the greatest fighter of all time, released a statement via us to the world about his current situation with the UFC. Next title fight, his relationship with the UFC brass. There's no way I could do it justice in summarizing right now. I said at the top, I hope you've read it. I hope you've listened to it. You've digested it. Because when someone like Demetrious Johnson, who is the ultimate company man, pours his heart out like that, that is worth listening to. I think so. And so we are so grateful and thankful that he is on the program right now, taking some time out to speak about this a little more. I know a lot of you are very excited to hear from him. No one more so than myself. Let's welcome him in. He is the flyweight champion of the UFC. He is Mighty Mouse. He is Demetrious Johnson. He is on the phone. DJ, how are you?
I'm good. You're so kind. That was a pleasant introduction, Ariel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. People are buzzing. People want to hear from you. So really, thank you so much. From your perspective, what has been the reception like to this? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are people saying to you about your statement?
I've had good reception. You're always going to have the internet trolls, the keyboard warriors. When I first posted that thing on the internet, to go back to the beginning of this, how I found out, Dana White wanted me to fight Dillashaw. I found out from you. I didn't get a phone call or anything. I got a text message from you saying, hey, this is what's going on in the news. I'm like, that's funny. I never heard anything. As far as I know, Matt's negotiating with Mick about fighting Ray Borge. So, it just goes back to, the past when, the Top 24 came out. I never got a phone call about that. It was basically media pressure about that going on. And I found out from Twitch and you guys. So that's why, I was coming home from training that day and I saw that and I said, fuck that. I'm tired of finding out about career choices or options through media and Twitter. So I was like, no, I'm done. That's why I posted that first thing. I said, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't agreed to anything yet. Last time I checked, I was waiting for a contract from Ray Borge, not TJ Dillashaw. And that's when, it all started.
And just out of curiosity, and I kind of want to start at the beginning, but before I do that, why, because like I said, this is somewhat uncharacteristic for you. You're not the kind of guy to sort of lay it all out there. We've had many conversations off the record and I ask you, why don't you say this? And you're like, you're not that guy. And I respect that. And I think that's why so many people respect you, because you go about your business. You're very classy. You're very professional. But why now? Why have you decided to do this? Why did you feel like this was the appropriate thing to do, to lay it all out there for the public?
It's funny you mentioned that. It was after the UFC fighter retreat, having, Michael Strahan, Kobe Bryant, Brandon Marshall come out there and talk to us about the sport and, finding your purpose, sticking to your principles, and don't back down from what you believe in, and just seeing these big sports figures, preach to us about that, and a lot of people took different things from the fighter retreat. You know what I mean? Some people are like, oh, it wasn't, beneficial. Some people goes, it was fun to go out there partying in Vegas. But for me, there's only 3 champions there, me, Town Rulli, and Nunez. I sat down and I actually listened to every single one of their stories and see how they took their career by their hands and made the right choices for themselves, because ain't nobody out there looking out for the best of Demetrious Johnson. There's only one person who's doing that, and that's me and obviously Matt and Brad. And so that's what kind of gave me my backbone when he was like, you get Kobe and Brandon Marshall was like, you can't let, the sport of this, your sport define you. You got to make sure you stick to your principles and what you believe in. And
that's when the light went off. That's when you said, enough's enough.
Yeah. Then, I had conversations with Dana and, there's some things he said that, I mentioned about in the interview to my face. And I said, right there. And that just broke the, that just basically lit that fire in my ass when he was like, well, we're doing this, this is what TJ wants. And I said, who the fuck cares what TJ wants? I said, as far as I'm concerned, and let me be clear, let's say Dana White said, oh, well, this is what Aljamain Sterling wants. This is what Rafael Santos wants. This is what Dominic Cruz wants. It's so forth. I would have said the same response. So I don't want people to think I'm bashing TJ and all that stuff in the media. It's how the situation approach, and him saying like, well, this is what TJ wanted, this opportunity, this is what we're going to do. And I said, fuck that. I was like, this isn't TJ Dillashaw's career. This is my career. And I was like, this is how it's going to fucking happen. You already offered me the fight with Ray Borg, and I accepted that fight when we were having, you know, little contract disputes. And then after that, you know, the number one contender is, who is it? Brandon Moreno taking on Sergio Pettis in Mexico City, August 9th. And then the winner of that could be the next number one contender. And then depending on how TJ and Cody, you know, battle all out, then I'll decide if I'm going to go to the 5-inch challenge for that belt. If that's an option, you know, I'm a man who's always willing to work my way up a division, and I believe everybody else should do that. And when I have conversation with Mick Maynard, who is in charge of the 125-pound division, he agreed with me. He goes, no, I totally agree with you, dude. I think TJ should come down, get a fight in the flyweight division. That way we know he can make weight safely. And then, you know, he can challenge for the title. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. When were you first approached about fighting Ray Borg?
Oh, man, probably 4 weeks ago. I mean, when I got approached to fight Ray Borg, there was, you know, things were still on track to fight. You know, obviously the rumor was out there to fight in Seattle on August 19th.
Yep.
And we're like, yeah, we're excited to do it. Let's make it happen.
So you were down. You wanted to fight close to home. Cool scene to break the record, you know, in front of your hometown crowd, essentially. You agreed to the fight, right? And in your mind,
yeah,
it was a formality. It was not signed maybe, but you thought that this was the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think the things what hold things up is, you know, as a champion, out of all my title defenses, you know, I've never got pay-per-view points, not once. You know, we've asked for it, you know, after I signed my new contract with the UFC, but they said no. Not giving a stating why, saying that the flyweights don't sell and all that stuff. But you know, my product's good. You know, I always go out there and fight, put on good performances, and finish my opponents the best of my ability. And so, but they put in the contract that, you know, this will be my first time ever getting 5 points when I break the record. So with that being said, we're like, okay, well, you know, I think going forward, you know, times are changing. I think after this fight, I think I deserve 5 points afterwards. You know, a lot of champions got it. You know, I talked to, you know, Tom Willie. I know he gets it. And I know a lot of champions get it and I don't get it. And they asked me the same thing, like, why did you get 5 points? I'm like, or pay-per-view points. Like, I don't fucking know. I asked the UFC and they said no.
And they didn't give you a reason.
Yeah, they're just saying that the flyweights don't sell, so there's no points. But I disagree. I think with the right marketing and, you know, and to give people insights, you know, when I fought UFC 186, you know, I did maybe 2.5 hours of what's it called, filming for a commercial for that in front of a green screen, shadow boxing, trying to broke the fight. Commercial never came out. You know, never got a proper commercial for UFC 186. UFC 197 when I was fighting Hirisuto. That was, UFC 197.
Yeah.
I spent 2 hours in front of a green screen again with shadow boxing, trying to promote the fight. Footage never came out, you know. And then I'm like, dude, why am I sitting here for 5-6 hours trying to promote this fight? And you guys aren't going to use the footage. You know, when it came to Tough 24 and I stand on a box for 6 hours trying to film that, I told Dana White and all those guys to the face, I was like, I'm gonna let you guys fucking know. If you guys don't use this footage, you send me the footage and I'll use it for myself on my Twitch channel, all right? And I was like, oh, no, we're going to use a lot of it. And I was like, all right, well, we'll see. You know, granted, they did use that, but I think with the right marketing tool, the right, you know, vision, I think the flyweights and the bantamweights can sell.
So when did you sign this new contract?
Right before I fought Tim Elliott, actually. I was after the Hirisuto fight.
Okay, and were you told that you will get pay-per-view points for the record-breaking fight and then every fight afterwards, or just for that one fight?
Just for that one fight.
Wow.
And I mean, and then if I went up to bantamweight, then I would get pay-per-view points, and then going forward, I would. But the point was, you know, when Dana comes out, goes, you know, you should stay at the, you know, Dana came out publicly, he goes, dude, you should stay at flyweight and just smash the record, you know, get 15, 16 title defenses. I'm like, I think I can do that. I think that's unprecedented in today's sport. I mean, you look at all the champions. The only person who's close to me is Joanna Jacek, and she's been on a tearing up her division, and I have 5 more than her. And so if I get up to 15, I believe after I break the record, I think I should get pay-per-view points if I'm on a big card. And I think now people are starting to catch on and believe that I'm the best pound fighter in the world after my display of dominance against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's never been submitted in his whole entire mixed martial arts career. So So I think, people starting to catch on, and I think my star's starting to rise. That I think my shit will start to sell with the right marketing.
The way I understand pay-per-view points is that there's usually like a baseline that if you get under that number, it's not in play. But if you get above it, then okay, now you're in the money, and it goes up after every sort of increment. Did you ever suggest that? Like, okay, if you don't think I could sell, fine, but give me, if I can outsell you, if I can prove to the world that I'm a draw, if I could do this or that, and you put me in this position, then let me play. So it's a win-win for both. If you don't hit that number, there's no points. But if you do hit a number and the card does well, if you're grouped with a Cormier or a Jones or whatever, and you guys outperform, or a Connor, then you deserve the pay-per-view points as the champion and one of the kings of the sport. Was that ever brought up? Was that ever discussed?
No, that was never discussed. Like I said, man, each time we do, I've never actually sat down in a room and talk legit business, come in there with a business suit and sit down like, hey guys, this is what I think should happen and all that stuff. We've never got to that point. It's basically, Matt does most of my negotiations, and then he'll come back to me and tell me how the meeting will go, and then I'll tell him, no, I don't like that. But like I said, as far as I said, they said, no, just 11th, and after that, nothing beyond that. So I was like, and that's why I think was holding up, the Ray Borge contract was like, no, dude, I think we deserve this. Other champions, they're getting it, and I think I deserve it, especially if I get 13 title defenses in the UFC, and that's never been done before in the history of the sport's been, created. I think that deserves some pay-per-view points, especially if I land on a Connor card or a Jones versus Cormier 3 or whatever like that. Yeah. Why not? So this is the one time I get it, and the next thing you know, I'm fighting on a Connor card when he comes back and he's fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I'm on it. I don't get a slice of the pie, and I believe I bring a lot to the table when it comes to those pay-per-views. I think it's only fair. Okay,
so you think that you're fighting Ray, and then it's UFC 211, and it's that Friday before that big press conference, and we find out that Cody Garbrandt is dealing with a back issue, and then TJ Dillashaw tweets out a picture of the cartoon Mighty Mouse, and then Dana White talks to the media and says, hey, TJ Dillashaw called me and said, I want to be the guy to stop Demetrious's streak. I want to go down to 125 and I want to fight him. I reach out to you. You tell me what you told me, which was essentially, this guy's not a 125er. I want to fight a guy who's been climbing the ranks, all that stuff and more. When do they reach out to you and actually formally offer you this? When do those talks happen?
Never. It never did. No, like I said, it was all through Twitter and all that stuff. And so, like I said, I found out from you. Nobody called me. I'm not the person who spends 24/7 on the internet, on Twitter. I was training, and I saw text messages from everybody, and then I'm like, oh, that's funny. Last time I checked, Matt was negotiating with Ray Borge, and I was like, nope. And I was like, I'm done. And I'm a man of principles, Luke Rockhold said it too. He was like, why is GSP getting the middleweight title shot? Why is that happening? What am I fighting for? Why am I in this division if I'm not going to get a title shot? If some dude who was going to fight for 4 fucking years can come in there and just get a title shot off the bat. And then when Luke Rockhold said that resonated with me too. And I was like, no, I totally agree. The next person getting a title shot at middleweight, it should be Yoel Romero. I told Tyron Woodley, to his face, I was like, dude, if Damian Maia does not get a title shot next, this is some bullshit. And he goes, no, I know, man. I know. And granted, he'll probably make more if he fights GSP. So, but yeah, the discussions never came up. When they never called me and said, hey, dude, this is what we're thinking about. When talks did come up and we're talking about my next fight, they said, this is what we have for you. And you can't, this is all we have for you. It's Ray Borge. And I was like, well, all right. Well, I think after this fight, I would love to put in my contract going forward, if I'm successful beating Ray Borge, that I get pay-per-view points. And they're like, nope. You're fighting Ray Borge, and that's it in Seattle. I was like, all right, I guess. Thanks. Appreciate it. And they're like, and then we got a thank you. And then 3 weeks go by, then this shit all happens.
And so based on your statement, there does seem to have been a back and forth where you said, okay, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of TJ going down because what if he misses weight and now it's not a title fight anymore. And so I don't get to break the record in my hometown. And so can you promise me X amount? Can you promise me this, that? And that didn't seem to be the case. When did all that stuff happen?
That happened right when Matt was talking to Mick, and they said, all right, he's going to fight TJ. And Matt goes, perfect. Just so you guys know, we want this in the contract and stipulation that if TJ does not make weight, TJ gets his guaranteed pay, and he also gets TJ's pay, and the fight's off. There's no more fight. And then they responded back, well, we can't guarantee that, What we can guarantee is that Ray Borg is going to be on the card, and if TJ doesn't make weight, whether it's medical reasons or something happens, because let's be honest, shit happens. People, you're on track to make weight. Next thing you know, you pass out in a tub, or you have, stomach cramping. It's happened to flyweights before. It's happened to Johnny Hendricks, Kevin Gastelum. The list goes on. That stuff happens, but that's what we offered, and Matt was like, "What is this? Is this fucking amateur hour? This is the shit you do at smokers and amateur shows. You show up to fight. I'm like, oh, this guy didn't make weight, but you can fight one of these guys. This is the UFC. This is supposed to be the pinnacle of mixed martial arts, and this is how we're negotiating that. Well, if this guy doesn't make weight, you can fight this guy." And Matt was like, "No, that's not how we're doing. This is not how a champion who's about to break a record for the most consecutive title defenses does business. Who are we training for?" Then after that, that's when they kind of just, they're just trying to make fights instead of like going with the first thing they offered us, which was Ray Borg, which we gladly accept under the conditions they gave us. And then now they're just running around in circles and trying to make this fight happen. I'm like, dude, and that's when I was like, I'm much over it. Like I said, if TJ or if Aljamain Sterling, Rafael Santo, anybody wants a title shot, if John Dodson wanted to come back to the flyweight division and try to get me a title shot, they can jump in line like everybody else has.
Right.
I don't see what the problem is. Brad Pickett did it, and he has the win over me. He wasn't bitching, complaining. He was like, "I'm going to work my way up the ranks. I'm going to beat Demetrious Johnson. Perfect. Let's make it happen. Get through the first fight." He beats Neil Siri. All right, he got to Ian McCall. He got stopped by Ian McCall. Then he was like, "I'm done. I'm tired of couldn't wait for the whole year to make 125 because I'm not a 125er. I was just trying to come down here to get a title shot."
When you went to the retreat, did you sit down with Dana White, Sean Shelby, UFC brass, and how did that conversation go?
It wasn't really a sit down, I said my concerns about the whole situation and what I think would be best for the division. And, Mick Maynard agreed with me. He said, I know I totally agree with you. And he's the one who's in charge of the flyweight division. Sean Shelby, we really didn't speak much on that whole situation. And then, like I said, what Dana said, he says, "No, this is what TJ wants." And I responded back, who cares what TJ wants? Last time I checked, this is Demetrious Johnson's career. And if he wants a title shot, he come down and earn it and get a fight. So that's how the situation went. And then he says, "No, we'll talk," and we never talked. He just went out there and says, "No, this is the fight we're going to make, and this is what's going to happen." I'm like, No, it's not. We still haven't talked, and we gave you stipulations and agreements. You guys didn't agree to it, so we're not done. And I'm tired of them like coming out saying, "Oh, this is going to happen," and it puts my character, in question with the public and fighters, and saying, "Oh, he's ducking TJ," and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, this is what I stand for. And you have fighters jumping around fucking divisions, doing this, doing that, and I'm not about that life, homie. So,
did they threaten to just abolish the division if you didn't take this fight?
Yeah, they
what
called.
Happened?
They called. They said, Mick Maynard was getting ready to take off to. He was Sweden, I believe, and
yeah.
he said, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know this is what they're coming back with." And they said, it's either TJ or we close the flyweight division. And I said, close the motherfucking division then, because if somebody's willing to do that, that just shows you that they have no interest whatsoever of working with the champion. I've never missed weight, always showed up on time, done all my interviews leading up to fight week, traveled to Australia and coach 2 times for a fight for the flyweight division. I've done a lot, and for them to say that, like, it just showed me that that's okay. If this is your form of tactic of trying to call my bluff, or it's a tactic that you guys really want to do, close the flyweight division, I said, fucking close it. I mean, obviously you guys have stated that, me, Ian McCall, Brandon Moreno, Sergio Pettis, Tim Elliott, Louis Smoker, I could probably name the whole flyweight division more than, not that it's Dana White's job to know the whole division. You're saying that we don't bring excitement to the UFC. Our division's not, making money. I like to disagree. I think our division is making money, and people are excited to see our division.
So do you believe them when they say that, or do you think that they're just trying to pressure you into taking the fight?
I had to believe them because I was standing my ground. I'm not a, when they say that, I take it. I'm a black and white type of dude. If you say something, I believe you're going to do it. So, when he told me that, I was all right. That's how you guys want to treat me and say that, close my division after, I've been playing ball the whole time and defending my title. Go ahead. Like I said, like they just show their, I don't want to say true colors, they show they had no interest in having a division. I'm not going to take a fight with legit stipulations. You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to believe it. You know, if somebody came into your show, says, Ariel, we're going to close the MMA Hour if you don't talk about Conor McGregor 24/7, you know, you're like, your mind's going to think like, are they really going to do it or not? So I told my wife, Destiny, I said, hey, you know, I'm standing my ground. I'm gonna have to go check with Costco, see if they accept the applications, because me doing this, they can, you know, they can strip me my belt and cut me from the UFC. Then I'll be like, all right, well, let's, you know, I stood my ground. I stood what I believe in. I felt at peace when I went on this whole, I'm gonna call it my beliefs of why I'm declining this fight. And people act like this is the first time a champion's declined a fight. Fuck, Conor McGregor, he was like, no, I'm not going to fight Aldo again. I mean, I knocked the guy in 14 seconds. Why would I fight him again? What does he bring to me? What does he do for my career? And then Michael Bisping turning out fights and say, no, I'm going to fight Dan Henderson. What? And now when I'm turning out a fight that has legit, it's not like I don't have an opponent. Like, I got an opponent. We were already in negotiations to fight somebody. And now that's where people, you know, a lot of people in the media, or not media, but the internet are like the fans, like, oh, this is what's going on. The fans, I love you guys, but you guys don't know shit.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's just so much stuff that goes on in the media. Like, what stuff goes on, for example, everybody's like, oh, this is your big money fight, blah, blah, blah. Let me newsflash, people. I made more money when I fought Chris Carriazo than when I fought Kyoji Horiguchi. I made more money when I fought Chris Carriazo when I fought John Dodson the second time. Now put that in your mouth and swallow it, and you sit there and you stomach it. And if the UFC would say, no, that's not true, I've already checked with the UFC financial department. I'm my own financial advisor. I do all my own booking. I don't do my own taxes, but when I make my money and I sit down and I go through the numbers, I sit down and go through the numbers, and I bring that up to Matt, and Matt brings it to the UFC. Then, I mean, when I was about to fight John Dodson the second time, I went to the UFC and I said, okay, what's next, guys? What are we going to do next? They were like, what's he going to fight John Dodson 2 again? I was like, all right, well, I think there's other people up in the division that I can fight, but if that's what you guys are going to do, I guess so. And they're like, don't worry about it. It's going to be your biggest paycheck forever. Go out there, fight, put on a stellar performance, rematch with John Dodson, you know, who's got wins on multiple guys. I think he only has 6 losses. And after things done, I said, I went back to Sean Shelby, and I said, hey, can I just fight Chris Carriazo again? He goes, why would you want to fight him? I was like, I made more money when I fought Chris Carriazo than I fought John Dodson. He goes, no, that can't be right. And I was like, it's true, dude. And for me, I'm a person that argues with facts. I'm not a person who just sits here and talks shit. Like, I'm not going to come up here and make up these stories and be like, oh, this is what happened. You know, when I fought John Moraga, I made more when I fought John Moraga than when I fought Joseph Benavidez. And, you know, I brought that to the UFC's attention, and they fixed that. They made it right. So, yeah, so...
Why is that, by the way, DJ? Like, why was it? Because Conor was on that card when you fought?
I have no idea, my friend. I have no idea. But the principle is that if people are saying that you take a bigger name, you fight a person who has a bigger name and who's tougher and bring a challenge to you. That for me, every single person I fight in the flyweight division or in my whole entire UFC career, mixed martial arts career, if that, they've always been tough fights for me to train for, to stay healthy, to make weight. They're all tough. They're all tough challenges. So when you're from the media standpoint, not media, but the fan standpoint, oh, this is going to be your biggest fight. He has a name, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I've been in that boat before, been a champion for 5 years. And I don't, those are empty promises to me that I don't like to grasp onto and run with.
And you mentioned something that sort of caught my attention. You told your wife, Destiny, that if they close the division, you're going to go out and find another job. Does that mean, in your mind, if they actually go through with this, you're done?
No, I mean, if they close the division, then obviously I have no idea what happens if I become a free agent or if I go up to bantamweight or what happens. But for me, I always put that in my back of my mind that, hey, if they close the division, and then this is UFC fires me like, hey, you're fired. We don't want to associate, you know, with you anymore, and we don't like what you said and all that stuff. Then I'm like, all right, well, it's time for me to either see if another organization wants to, you know, take one of the greatest fighters in the world that does nothing but represents the company and does good work. I mean, it's not like I'm a bad guy. I'm just fucking keeping it real. Then I'll go that route. But in the back of my mind, I'm not a man who's not asking for anything that's unreasonable. I'm a hardworking guy. I mean, I was fucking working a full-time job when I fought for the world title at 135. So for people like, I can't even go back to work. I've done it before. I was a full-time fighter, fighting the high pinnacle of the sport, working a full-time job. I am a man who I'm not scared to get my hands dirty.
And so to connect the dots here, you leave the retreat, which was just a couple of weeks ago, after saying what you said to Dana, kind of holding your ground. What happens then to get us to this point behind the scenes? Do they try again to make it happen?
No, he just came back on. He went on Twitter. He went on a UFC podcast and said, "This was going to happen. Blah blah. This was going to happen. I make the fights around here, and that's the fight we're pushing for." And I told him my stipulations, and that's when I was like, then the media, not the media, and people are like, "Where's Demetrious Johnson? How come he hasn't said anything? We want to know his side of the story. What's going on?" And I was like, "Okay, I think it's time, to." Oh, and then when he said. When they came back and they said, "Hey, if you don't fight, then we're closing the division." I was like, "Okay, well, that's where they want to go with. Then I guess it's time for me to, give my reasons on why that the world isn't like, oh, you're ducking TJ." Let me remind you guys, if it was Aljamain Sterling, Rafael Santo, or any other bantamweight in the division who was trying to come down and skip the line, their name will be replaced with TJ Dillashaw. So
on the UFC Unfiltered podcast, Dana White said this to Ray Longo and Matt Serra. He said, quote, "DJ doesn't want to fight him. Why? It's insanity. This is the first fight ever in DJ's history that he actually gets pay-per-view points. He gets pay-per-view on this one, and this is the first real fight people will care about and want to see on pay-per-view, and he is refusing to fight TJ Dillashaw." Okay, so that's fine, whatever. But when I heard his next comment, I said this at the top of the show, I said, I thought that this was the straw that broke the camel's back for you. When he said this, "At the end of the day, you know how I am with this stuff. Unfortunately for DJ, you don't make the fights around here. I do. So that's the fight we're pushing for. That's the fight. I talked to TJ Dillashaw yesterday. That's the fight he wants. He's ready. He's already cutting weight." End quote. When he said that, I was just thinking, would he ever say that about Conor? Would he ever say that about Ronda? Would he ever say that about, some of his top champions? You don't make the fights. I do. And this is who you're fighting. I thought that was a slap in the face to you. Was that the straw that broke the camel's back, in your opinion?
I mean, that was a little bit, but I think that broke the straw on the camel's back was when he said in my face, he goes, this is what TJ Dillashaw wants, and you're taking this opportunity away from DJ. But him saying that, look what Conor's doing now. Conor's not even in the sport of mixed martial arts, technically. He's a champion. He's not even ready to defend his belt. Where's Ronda at? Exactly. Nobody knows. Where's my black ass at? I'm still here trying to defend my title. I'm still trying to represent this company as the greatest combat sport on the planet Earth. And of course, he wouldn't say those guys that he wouldn't say that to Conor and Ronda. They run their own show. Now all I'm trying to do is run my own show and be straight up. Like I said, and I'm not a UFC employee. I'm a self-contractor. Okay, if Dana White contracted me to come to his house to lay down some tile, and then he was like, "Oh, hey, I want you to also lay down something else," I can refuse that job. I can refuse it and decline it. Say, "No, you contracted me to lay down some tile. If you want to contract me to lay down some backsplash in your shower, you're gonna have to submit another contract, and I'll have to review it to see if it works best for my career. And then and I got to get you in the schedule on it too." That's how that works. So I mean, if they want to treat me like an employee, then we got to start, dumping some money into my retirement, investing in my 401k and all that stuff. And
I don't know if that's happening. In fact, speaking of that, Leslie Smith tweeted actually a question to us to ask to you. She has been very vocal about a potential association/union, and she asked if you believe now, after dealing with this, that a fighters union/association would help you.
To be honest with you, I have no idea. I've never been part of an association. I've never looked into it. I hear good things, bad things. But that's a whole different type of topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I'm standing my ground, what I believe in. And like I said, JDR, she stood her ground. She goes, "Hey, this is why I'm not fighting, Cyborg.
Yeah.
You can either cut me or you can close the division and all that stuff." And then talking about division that's not making any money, I'm pretty sure the flyweight division has been bringing in way more money than the 145-pound women's division. I mean, how many people they have in that division? 4, 5? So I'm just, like I said, man, I'm a transparent guy. I keep it real. If people ask me a question, I'm going to give you my honest opinion about it. When people are like, "Oh, what do you think about Tough 24? Well, I think it's fucked up. I think they should have had, they should have had everybody in the house. Ryan Benoit, he said, "What am I fighting for? How can these guys get to skip the line?" I told the UFC, I said, "You should throw everybody in the UFC roster in the house and fight. It's usually going to be no more contender." They didn't agree with it. So for me, I try to be honest and be straightforward. And this is where it's got me to, man.
How difficult was it for you, given the way you've been throughout your UFC career, to put that statement out?
Not hard at all. Like I said, man, it was an athlete's retreat. You know, I told Destiny, I said they shouldn't have them black athletes come talk to me. They done fucked up. You know, and I've been around town really a lot, you know, and you just hear things, man. When I do, you know, when I went to New York, I did Sway for the first time, and Sway's like, they don't market you enough, dog. And you're running around. I'm in Hawaii right now. Everybody's showing me love. I hear, you know, the Shaka, the champ's here, all that stuff. And I'm telling them congrats on your new boy, the new champ. And they're like, dude, they don't market you enough. And you got everybody and their mama saying they don't market you enough.
Yeah.
You have to take a step back as an athlete, like, shit, are they not marketing me enough? Are they not doing this stuff? And then you get fed up after a while. But like I said, man, this could have went down totally different. You know what I mean? Like Dana White could have came back to TJ Dillashaw instead of going to public like, hey, you know what? DJ doesn't accept. Imagine this. Let's say Dana White went back to TJ Dillashaw and said, hey, TJ, Demetrious Johnson graciously declines your motion to fight for the title. He requests that you come down the flyweight division and get a win, and then you can get a shot at the title. And then then the ball's in TJ's court. TJ couldn't be like, all right, yeah, that seems fair. You know what? I guess I'll just wait for Cody Garbrandt. You know, I really want a title shot, Dean. That's what I really, really want. You know what, TJ? You know what? You do have a title shot. Just sit there and wait for Cody. He's already back on the road of recovery, and you guys can fight. You know, at MSG or something like that. Boom. That would have been easy, simple, perfect. Mm-hmm. But all this, like, oh, this is what's going to happen, and blah blah blah. Then that's where it's like they're not obviously trying to work with me. They're trying to close my whole damn division.
Have you heard from the UFC since putting out this statement?
No, I have not. And I told Matt that I'm done. I said, Matt, I'm exhausted. I'm just tired of dealing with it. I'm going on vacation. I'm using this vacation as a recharge. And now, and I went to Matt. I said, Matt, please tell me if I'm out of line. You know, these are my feelings. You know, and as a student, and as your student, you know, and I see Matt as my father. You know, he's been with me, you know, since the beginning of my career. He's, you know, when I first fought for the WEC, and Dana White was like, Fighter Night's going to get $65,000, da-da-da-da. And I was like, 65 G's, I'm about to buy myself a fucking WRX. And Matt turned around to me, he goes, no, you're going to buy a house, you're going to start investing, you're going to start doing these things to look out for your career because this is a very short window of opportunity. I look at Matt as my father, and I said, Matt, as all the bullshit aside, okay, what do you want? What do you want best for your student? And he goes, no, I think you're right. I think if, you know, Dana wants to have somebody skip the line that we've always been passionate about fighting the next guy in line. No, I fight Kyoji Horiguchi. People are like, oh, he's not ready. Kyoji Horiguchi is the best Japanese fighter to ever come out of Japan. Best fighter. He only has 3 losses. And people are like, oh, he's not a worthy opponent. Shut your mouth, ladies and gentlemen. He was worthy of the opponent. Everybody else I fought. So when I talked to Matt was like, you know what? I think you're doing the right thing. Then I was like, okay, as long as me and Matt are on the same page, then I ain't fucking worried about it. And obviously the wife too. The wife's got on the same page as well.
What do you say? Like, I see 95% of the people, I mean, this has been a very big story today. It's all anyone's asking me about and commenting on. 95% are saying, you go, DJ, we support you. And then you have the 5% who are like, I can't believe you're ducking TJ Dillashaw. Does that drive you nuts that they missed the big picture here? How do you react to that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me at all. And how do I react to it? Conor McGregor, I like how he handles his career. But a long time ago, he said that people are always going to look the way to discredit you for whatever you do in the sport of mixed martial arts. They'll probably always hang over and say, "Oh, you never took the rematch to Aldo." You think you know Conor cares? Do you think I care what the 5% or 95% you know say? This is how I feel, and people are like, "Oh, your legacy." My legacy. When somebody said that, "Oh, you're tarnishing your legacy," I was like, my legacy is in the back of my car. It's my 2 children that I'm putting time and effort into. When I'm done with my mixed martial career, the only people who are going to remember me and respect what I did and how I lived my life are my 2 children. That's my legacy, ladies and gentlemen. So don't be like, oh, you're ducking fights, blah, blah, blah. Don't say it's going to tarnish my legacy. People are already shitting on Jose Aldo's legacy after he got knocked out by Max Holloway. And why would I want to, you know, put all my eggs in basket when someone's going to turn around and tarnish their legacy because he lost a fight? Losing is part of the sport. He's done amazing things in the UFC and the featherweight division. So that's when fans say that stuff, that's how I look at it. That's how I respond to it. It's like, you guys don't know anything.
Recently, you took that picture that you wanted of you with all 10 belts. Did you feel like that was kind of an olive branch, that maybe the relationship would get better because they made that happen for you? Were you happy with it? Did you get to keep the titles? What's your takeaway from that? Because that was something that clearly was bugging you before the Kansas City fight.
Yeah, it was a great picture, and I'm happy the UFC made it happen. I still don't have all my belts. They're at the UFC office, so I don't know if I'll be getting those back at all. But like I said, man, and it's not like I said, man, it's not that. I just think we're on different terms of business deals.
Yeah.
And people are seeing me come out and speak the truth, looking at me saying that, oh, I don't want to fight for the UFC anymore. I love fight for the UFC. It's an amazing company. I've done a lot of great things, and I've done a lot of great things for my career. But the way they're going out, and I'm fucking tired of finding out, seeing about my career on Twitter.
Yeah.
A phone call would be nice. That way we can discuss it before you go out there saying all this stuff. You know what I mean? So, but hopefully, hopefully they understand, where I'm going forward with this. Me doing this interview and anybody else out there who's listening, MMA Junkie, ESPN, all the guys, don't call me asking for follow-ups. I'm not doing another interview. Okay. This is it. Ariel Helwani to get it. That's about it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I hope this moves forward and doing the right thing and getting the sport back on track to what it was about. You have rankings. What's the fucking point of having UFC tonight and showing the rankings and say, Demetrious Johnson has beat this guy, and he has fought, for Miga, he's ranked number 6 and number 7. Let's go to the bantamweight division. We have blah, 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 blah. What's the point in having that show if you're not even going to follow the rankings? What is the point in having a number one contender? Why come to me and say, hey, this is number one contender, Ray Borg, she's a flyweight number one contender. After that, it's probably going to be Brandon Moreno and Sergio Pettis. What's the point in having these conversations if you're not going to stick to it? You're basically lying to the public and selling wolf tickets, as Nick Diaz would say. And so I hope this conversation and me doing this interview will get the sport back to where, how we have these rankings and me sticking up for people who are working in the flyweight division, working tirelessly to get a title shot to fight me. I hope it goes back to that. In divisions like where there's, you have Conor, he's out about the box. And so now the lightweight division is on hold. Everybody's waiting for Conor. They're probably going to do interim belts, even though usually when they do interim belts, it's when the champion is unable to fight through medical conditions, from my understanding. But they have other stipulations now in this day of mixed martial arts. So I'm trying to keep the flyweight division to where you're just running them. If TJ came down, or if any other bantamweight came down and tried to get a title shot and fought once in the division, and if they became number one contender, we would be fighting. And then if they won the belt, then they can dictate what they want to do, whether they want to go to 35 or they can dictate that. But now that I'm the champion, and it's the first time I'm holding my ground on this is how it's going to be. I mean, like I said.
And just a couple more minutes with you, but I'm happy that you said that, because not that long ago, Dana White did a scrum where he said, stop talking about money fights, stop talking about jumping around after you win the belt and all that stuff. And here's a champion who's actually saying, I want things to go back to normal. I want to fight the number one guy. I want to keep the division intact. I'm not doing this for money fights or entertainment. I want to stay true to the sport. Are you surprised that they're essentially doing the opposite of what he was saying not to do?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like I said, I don't talk to Dana much. I've heard him say that in an interview before, but yeah, man, you having all these guys going around saying they want money fights and all that stuff. For me, I think every fight that I fight is a money fight, because I'm going after it for my belt. And if I lose, obviously I'll go down to a different pay scale. So every fight for me is a money fight. I just felt, when he's saying it, I'm trying to keep the shit like he wants me to keep it. Instead of having guys like, oh, I'm gonna go fight. I want to fight. I want to fight Max Holloway. He's the new 145-pound champion. I want that 145-pound belt. Then people come back to me and goes, well, you can't do that. Why not? Everybody else is doing it. Shit, hell, GSP just did it. He ain't been acting for 4 years. Why can't I do it? And people are like, oh, you want to take that fight? I'm like, trust me, motherfucker, I would take that fight if the money was right. So,
does a part of you wish that you spoke up earlier? That you were quiet for too long about your relationship? No, not at all. Because, like I said, man, I felt, I have to tell you, man, after that retreat, talking to the athletes and been around the sport for so long and talking and, like I said, if he would have said something different or whatever, then, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But it was right when he said, like, this is what TJ wants. And right then I was like, oh, fucked up. I'm done. Because he's like, it's obviously he's not concerning
worried about me, and we gave them the stipulations and my concerns. And I feel like, I watched the MMA Beat with you guys and, Luke Thomas, and you guys are like, this seems like a quick fix. What do you do? Let's live in reality here, okay? Reality is, let's say I beat TJ Dillashaw. He comes down and we fight, and it's a great fight, whatever. I beat him. And then I decide to stay at 125. Okay, then let's say he beats me. Then do I get a rematch? Does he go up to 135 and hold up the 125-pound division? Does he ever come back down? There's too many gray areas. So that's why I was like, nah, dog, it's not going to happen. If he wants a title shot, if anybody at the bantamweight division wants a title shot, and you want to play fucking Monopoly where you can skip go or skip jail, ain't happening, dog. You got to come down here and fight, get a win, 2 wins, just like every other flyweight under the UFC contract. Then you get yourself a title shot. Until then, you can go up to 155 and get a title shot immediately, because there ain't no champion there ready to defend his throne. He's out doing other things, That's how it's going to work in the flyweight division.
I know you're focused on yourself, and this is a very intense time, but I can't ignore the fact that it seems like almost every week there's someone coming out and talking about their discontent with the new UFC, quote unquote. Do you feel like this is a bigger issue right now in the sport? And are you confident that it can get fixed, where fighters will start to feel like they are being listened to, treated right, respected? At the end of the day, that's what this boils down to, right? You want to be, called on the phone and told what the plans are before the world finds out. These are kind of simple things. Are you confident that this will happen? I mean, you're now like the 10th person in the last 10 weeks to ally Quinta, Anderson Silva. The list goes on and on. Are you confident that this will change? Do you listen to these other guys, and does that kind of, make that light bulb go off in your head as well?
I would hope it would change, but they have so many guys on their roster that I'm pretty sure I don't know how hard it is to make a phone call like, hey, this is what we're thinking before we come out there and say anything. Obviously, this isn't the first occasion that this has happened with me in my career. But, I do listen to the other guys and how their relationship with the UFC isn't going as well. And it seems like they're starting to fix it. I saw Ala Quinta, at the Fighters Retreat. So it seems like they're trying to amend that relationship, But I don't know anybody else's relationship, but I didn't let anybody else's relationship with the UFC affect my decision to stand my ground. When I told myself, I was like, hey, if you're going to do this, then you need to make sure you stand your ground in your beliefs. And so after I went to the retreat and listened to the speakers, and thank you to the speakers, Michael Strahan and Kobe Bryant and Brandon Marshall, coming out, taking your time out to come talk to us. That just kind of gave me my position, and just hearing the people from, time and time saying, when you go out to a big interview, you go to Sports Illustrated, they're like, they don't market you enough, dude. Like, they should have you doing this and this and this and this. Matt Hume, he says they should have you doing this and this and all this media. So, like I said, man, it was just a long time coming.
Yeah.
Like I said, I still love the UFC. Great employees there. I can just rally off, Lene, Chris Vino, James Kimball, Paige, Dave Lockett, all the people who work tirelessly to, push me in doing the media and stuff. But when it comes to stuff like this, they're like, oh, well, this is the only fight you have to, this is the only choice you have. We're going to close the fight with division. It just makes me look at the whole situation totally different. I was like, well, if you're willing just to close the fight with division after I give you my stipulation as to why I don't want this fight to happen, it's not like I don't have an opponent. It's not like, there's not a worthy I think Ray Borge is a worthy challenger. He's tough. He's gritty. He's got great cardio. He's good in the scrambles. A lot of people thought Tim, this fight's going to be easy. Look, Tim was a tough guy. He's a tough SOB. So that's, like I said, man, I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. And I just felt this is the right time to do it. That way people understand where my character comes from, why I put my stance down, or why I'm not fighting any bantamweight that's going to come down here to get a title shot. I don't like how people keep saying, even though TJ is involved in this situation, it's just the principle that it's a bantamweight coming down, skipping the line, that my fellow 125ers have worked so hard to get this opportunity. And for the UFC to throw another man at their opportunity, they have to explain why they're doing that, because I'm not. I just, I'm sticking up for them and say, no, this is what's going to happen. If someone wants to come out and get a title shot, if I want to go up to 135 and get a title shot, and UFC was like, hey, you got to fight, you got to fight the number one contender, then I might rethink my plan of action. I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll sit out and keep defending my title. But that's never happened. I never tried to do that. So
before I let you go, what do you think happens now?
I think they're gonna fire my black ass, and then I'm gonna be working at Costco. Ladies and gentlemen, when you come through the line, I'll ask you want a box or not. No, on the real, I have no idea, dude. Like I said, I have no idea. I'll tell you what's gonna happen. I might fight another bantamweight. Tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, man, I have no idea. I'm on vacation now. I've been on my phone, just reading. And now it's time for me to step away and just leave it in Matt's hands. And, the world knows where I stand. There's people who believe me. I've got nothing but support from people who work at the UFC, from other champions. When another champion texts you when Dana White's doing this, he goes, "What the fuck is Dana smoking?" He goes, "Does he not realize TJ's not a bantamweight? Not a flyweight?" He goes, "All I have to say is they better pay your ass if this happens." I'm like, "Thanks, man. I appreciate the support."
Who was that, by the way?
At the end of the day, I ain't throwing anybody underneath the bus. Okay, I ain't about that life.
No, I know.
But I appreciate all the support. At the end of the day, the support is nice. It's awesome. I just want things to get back to right, and they're good to go. You know what I mean? Like, I want to fight. Right now, I'm just letting my body heal, trying to make sure my body is good to go. That if the fight does go through between me and Ray Borge on August 19th, I'm able to do a full training camp to give the number one contender in the flyweight division the best, Demetrious Johnson. So we'll see what happens.
Is August 19th off the table, or are you still open to it if it's Ray Borg?
I'm still open to it. First, I got to make sure everything's good on my body. I got to memorize and X-rays. I want to make sure everything's 100%.
Okay.
And if it is, and we come back and we talk and business is good and me and Matt are comfortable and then UFC and I can move past this whole, I guess you say, shit show, then we'll make it happen, But the thing too, I respect UFC saying, "Hey, we're gonna close your fucking division and take TJ a fight." All right, sounds good, but here's my stance. Go ahead, fucking close it. Like, I respect them being honest and straightforward with it, but don't expect me to be, "Oh, okay, I'll take the TJ fight. So you can close my division." No, that's not how it works. What have I been doing for the last 5 years in this division? Trying to make it, the best division in the world.
Before fighting Ray, do you want to relook at your contract? Are you not willing to fight under the same deal that you have now, with the one fight, the record-breaking fight being for pay-per-view points and all that? Or if they come back and say, "Okay, let's just go back to the original idea. It's Ray Borg, August 19th. You're healthy. Let's do it." Are you down?
I would say I am down. And then after I get through this fight, I would say, "Yo, let's make that happen where I believe I deserve pay-per-view points moving forward as a flyweight champion. If I get 20 UFC flyweight championship defenses and I ain't getting damn pay-per-view points, they got to change. Guys who I can understand. Let's say this. Let's say I just became a champion, and I'm like, a long time ago, I remember when John Jones became champion, and he got that $400,000 Bentley. And then when I became champion, somebody at the UFC goes, "Hey, did Dana White buy you a car yet?" And I was like, "No." What do you mean? And he goes, usually Dana buys the champions a car when they become a champion. And I was like, I ain't get no motherfucking car. But I can understand, let's say I became a champion. And I'm like, I want all these demands. I want this and this and this. And then, 2 fights and I lose. I can understand them not giving me those stipulations or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's not, this isn't my 5th or 6th or 7th title defense. I'm going on my fucking 11th title defense. I've been a champion for 5 years. So give me a legitimate reason of that, you're not getting pay-per-view points. Is your reason that the flyweights don't sell? Let's start marketing. Let's get some serious marketing. Let's make a sick trailer like you did for UFC 189, Conor and Jose Aldo, like you did for the MSG. UFC 2, I can't remember the card. What card is that?
205.
205. Let's get some serious marketing dollars on marketing, as you guys call me, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, the greatest fighter of all time at this era. Let's get some serious marketing dollars to push my fights. When it came to me fighting Wilson Hayes, I went on my Discord and on Twitch. I said, "Let me ask you guys a question. I don't want you guys to be 110% honest. Have any of you guys seen one commercial of me fighting Wilson Hayes? One commercial on Fox Sports 1. And everybody said, no. Saw one on YouTube, 30-second commercial. I watched Fox Sports 1 all fucking day because Monster Jam's on there because my kids want to watch it. And I didn't see one commercial. The first time I saw a commercial, my record tying defense fighting Wilson Hayes was like the week of the fight. So let's get some serious marketing dollars behind this bad boy. Let's get some trailers. I'm game. I already showed I can sit in front of a green screen for 3 hours and never see the content. And if people are like, "Oh, you never did it," I'll look at my wife's phone and see if I can find the content where I was shadowboxing for 2.5 hours but I guess they decided not to use it because Jones DC fight got called off. But I was still on there fighting. So, but
How many fights left on
We'll see
your
what
deal?
happens, Ariel.
6 fights left?
I believe 6.
Okay.
I believe 6.
And last thing, very last thing, and again, I can't thank you enough, especially on vacation. Holy smokes. I wonder what your wife and kids are doing at this point. They're probably at the pool having a blast, and you're talking to me, so I really appreciate this. Are you willing to sit down with Dana White face-to-face to clear the air? At this point, are you done? Is that up to Matt to do? Of course, your longtime coach, mentor, friend, Matt Hume.
I think it's right now where my feelings are at. It's going to be up to Matt.
Okay.
I mean, if Dana wants to sit down and talk man to man and keep it real with each other, we can do that. But my stance is going to change. And we kind of did that at the fighter retreat.
Sure.
You know, I told him straight up, like, this was going to happen. He goes, no, this is going to happen. We have a disagreement. So we have two parties on a disagreement, and whether that gets fixed or whether it doesn't, we have no idea. You know, I told my stance. I think my stipulation is good. This is a sport foremost. I see this as a sport. I will keep it as a sport as best to my ability, and that's what I believe I'm doing. And, you know, a lot of people might say, oh, you know what, then Joseph Benavidez is no more contender. I try to, you know, get Joseph a chance to get a title shot. I try to put him in a house to dictate, you know, who's going to fight. And me and Joseph talked about it. He goes, you know, Joseph was like, I'm bitter. I'm pissed. These fuckers are in the house about to get what I deserve. And I was like, I agree with you, brother. I agree. But they didn't want that to happen. You know what I mean? So this isn't the first time I've ever stuck up. And Dana White told me, he goes, I appreciate you sticking up for your little buddy. That's very cute of you.
Huh.
But so this isn't the first time I've done this. And who knows, this might not even be the last time that I do this, because I want to restore order, or I should say order into this division where, no, if you're the number one contender and the UFC deems you, if you're on UFC Tonight and Karen Bryan and my boy Tyron Woodley and Kenny Florian, Fox are saying the number one contender in the flyweight division is Ray Borg, that man's going to get his title shot that he deserves. If he doesn't, then the UFC can to sit down with him and tell him why, hey, Ray Borg, you're not getting a title shot because you're not marketable. You're not, you know, we don't see you as a worthy challenger. We see another guy who hasn't had one fight in the flyweight division who deserves it more than you. They can have that talk. But so I'm done, Ariel. I basically buried my black ass in the sand. I'm going to go enjoy myself with the family.
Much respect, DJ.
Thank you
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for giving me the time. Thank you for giving me the time. And thank you guys
Always.
for all the support. Appreciate it. And we'll see where it goes from here, man. Like I said, first thing first, what I'm worried about is getting healthy. When I'm healthy, then I'll start deciding on what's going to happen next. And then we'll go from there.
A lot of respect for you, DJ. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out and putting out that statement, for coming on the show. I know a lot of people have your back. I'm seeing it roll through here right in front of my eyes. Good luck to you. Enjoy your vacation. Try to enjoy it. Try to block all this out. And I hope it works out. I hope you get what you deserve and what you want, because in my opinion, if anyone has earned the right to get what they want at this point in the sport, it is you. So kudos to you for speaking out. And again, good luck with everything. Please provide us with an update when you have one on how your hand and how everything is feeling and how this all plays out. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out. Good luck.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
All right, there he is, Demetrious Johnson. He says, have a good night. He's in Hawaii. It's early morning over there. And so we wish him the best. We wish him the best. It is an amazing thing. Here's a guy who has not said, essentially a peep. He has not said anything over the years. A model employee, if you will, or a model contractor has always kind of marched by the beat of the UFC's drum, right? And so, as I said at the top, for him to get to this point, you can imagine how annoyed he was, how upset he was. Thought he laid it out. Very interesting for those wondering. I reached out to the UFC to get their comment, and you could go back and forth all day long. I mean, I think Dana's initial comment on the Unfiltered podcast was a response, and this is his response to that response. But in fairness, I did go back to them and show them the statement and ask if they wanted to respond to that, just to be fair and balanced, and have both sides of the story here, because he is talking about specifics. I have not heard back just yet. I heard back that they received it and thanked me for reaching out, but I have not actually received a statement in return. This is going to be an interesting one. This is a guy who I think a lot of fans respect. I think a lot of fighters respect. You don't hear many people say bad things about Demetrious Johnson. So again, when he comes out and says these things They tend to ring louder than with most. And as I said to him, it's hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore. You can say all you want. You can call us negative. You can say that we focus. It's hard to ignore when the very best fighters in the world are speaking like this. It's just hard. And I think at the end of the day, it boils down to one thing and one thing only: respect. These guys want to be respected. They want to be treated with respect. That's the bottom line. That's what Iaquinta talked about. That's what Anderson Silva talked about. That's what DJ's talking about. Every single guy that you've heard from this year, every single fighter that you've heard from this year who has had some kind of gripe with the UFC and who has felt empowered to speak up for whatever reason, whether it's the sale, whether it's Lorenzo Fertitta leaving, whether it's Joe Silva leaving, whether it's the Reebok deal, whether it's USADA, whether it's a comment from Dana White, a comment from this person, every single person that has spoken up and had the courage to speak up, because in the past it was very taboo, it all comes down to respect. And that is at the end of the day, that is the most simplest sort of form of gratitude that you can show another person, right? Respect, trust, respect, loyalty. That's all they're asking for. At the end of the day, you heard him on the show. He wasn't saying, I want $1 million more. I want this and that. I just want a phone call when you're talking about my career. I just want to be treated with respect. Think about that.